Rob here from room 301. Today I'm joined by Nina Alexander. Nina's a great marketeer and she was a great guest for today's episode. Nina talks about how if you don't automate, you could die, and also why innovating isn't always a good thing depending on the audience you're marketing to. Let's get into it. Welcome back to room 301. I'm joined by the very lovely Nina today. Nina, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, look, I'm really, really appreciative of your time today. I know you're a busy person. We've just had a bit of a pre-chat to this recording. It sounds like you've got a lot of things going on. But before we jump into the key questions for the podcast, tell the listeners a bit more about you, your background, how you got into marketing and how you got to where you are now.
Oh, that's it's a very lovely story. I got given a book when I was 16 years old, and the book was called The 11 Immutable Laws of Branding. And then I got given another book, which is The 11 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And I read those books and I thought that's exactly what I want to do. And I reread those books a couple of months ago from the perspective of today, having been in marketing for like 20 years now. Those books are cringe, right?
Oh,
They
really?
are so
Are they out of date?
they are so very basic, having read them now. But back in the day, I thought they were the most fascinating read ever. So that is actually what got me into marketing.
Nice. And tell me more about your current role. What do you do now? Who for? What do you do day to day?
Day to day, it's, oh God, there's a lot of it. There is managing people, there is planning automations, there is content creation, lead magnets, project improvement, like product improvement, service delivery. There's a lot that happens. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we were talking before we started recording about automations and sort of nurturing and things like that. And I find that really interesting personally. I was telling you as we were before we recorded that something that I think we need to do better as a business as well. And it's not something that I see a lot of marketers specialising in. And I think it's certainly something that's becoming more and more important from a marketer's point of view. There's a lot of top of funnel content that happens from a brand perspective, but it's how you get sales and revenue and leads out of that. And it sounds like that's where your expertise lies. So
Yeah.
tell me more about your thoughts around automations and how important you think it is to the marketing matrix.
I'll be frank with you, it is absolutely inevitable for any business that wants to survive. I'm not even going to suggest that they will thrive. Automation is a matter of survival at this point, simply because as you see how society progresses, it's your customers that start expecting it. So unless there is automation behind everything that you do, you're not really going anywhere. And I'll give you a prime example. I did a couple of days ago purchase a course on a technical skill. And I have been subscribed to that person's email list for coming over close to 6 years now.
Wow, the first purchase?
First purchase from that person after
6 year
six
sales
years.
cycle. That's a big one.
It is a big one, but it was the sheer fact that I was subscribed to their emails that
Absolutely, yeah.
managed to actually get me to, first of all, believe what they say, see true value in what they sell, and actually become a customer, a paying customer after so many years. And had I not been subscribed to them, I wouldn't have remembered their name. There is
I think
absolutely no chance that
I think that's
six
a
years
really good
later.
example.
Yeah, I know. It is a really good example, but the thing with marketing automation that's happening at the moment is that you have a lot of tools popping left, right, and center. People get bombarded with tools being sent, but automation is effectively just tying a series of sequence of events happening one after the other. The thing that a lot of people don't think about at this point is that it's not really that important which tool you're using, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they do the same thing, more or
Yeah.
less. You miss a feature here or a feature there, but ultimately they do the same thing. It's the concept, it's the logical thoughts that you put behind it that makes the difference. So if I can give one advice to people that deal with automation is get a diagramming tool.
Okay.
Honestly, if you can diagram it, if you can, even if it's a pen to paper, if you can diagram a process, you can automate it.
You
Everything
can
is
build it,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, you can build it. But you have to diagram it, and you have to make sense when you diagram it. If you can't diagram it, you can't automate it. It's just as simple as that.
And that's a really good piece of advice. One I'm going to take on actually as well. And it's interesting, particularly B2B. We're a B2B business, and it's
Yeah.
from a sales point of view and a lead generation point of view. It's very difficult to find a sale or a lead who needs your help right at that exact moment. I think a lot of B2B lead generation and sales is waiting for the right moment when they
Yeah.
need your service or product. And that's where the automations and the nurturing comes in for me. You can capture their attention with a white paper, a download, a webinar in January, but they might not need you until June. What are you doing between January and June that's going to capture their attention? And when they do want your product, you're the first person they think of. That's the bit that I find really fascinating. And I think that's where clearly you're adding your value. But look, great introduction. Thank you again for joining us, Nina.
Awesome.
First question. What's in your toolbox? So what's in your toolbox part of our episodes is not always about a piece of software, although it certainly can be. I'm personally very interested in, I speak to a lot of people, very busy people, managing teams, managing different businesses, side hustles, so on and so forth. Lots of stuff to do, lots of tasks to get through. I'm very interested in the tools that people use to get through those tasks efficiently, how they think about it, working frameworks, so on and so forth. Over to you. Tell me how you be so efficient, how you get through your work.
Well, when it comes to frameworks, I do have one framework that I use the most with almost every business that I ever engage with, and that's the answer matrix. It's old school as you would have it, but it's probably the most efficient thing. So a lot of time, I'll just give you a quick overview of why I'm using it. So the answer matrix is basically something that shows you which direction you can go in terms of existing in new products and in terms of existing in new markets. So I don't know if you recall what the matrix is. It's basically 4 quadrants, and you have products on one lane, markets on the other one, and effectively you get to sit down against it. There's a lot more that goes into the analysis. But if you are sat as a business at a specific position and you go, okay, so I have reached the possible top of the market I can reach, then the answer matrix can actually help you find out whether you're expanding towards new markets or new products. And it's just a very easy way to visualize that. So when it comes to decision making about how to grow businesses, the answer matrix is my absolute go-to. When it comes to tools, I have a diagramming solution I'm using.
What's your chosen diagramming solution? You're going to have to tell me that.
I use something that's not very popular.
Pen paper?
No, no. You know why I don't use pen and paper anymore? I used to. When I first started, I would do everything on pen and paper or whiteboards. But then over time, you realize that you start editing stuff a lot more. And some diagrams are really simple. My diagrams are insane. Sometimes, because I work a lot with business to business as well. And when it comes to business to consumer, it usually is straightforward, easy process. When it comes to business, there's a lot of intricate detail that you get with your nurturing sequence, and you find a way to get people to give you answers without asking them questions through automation. Happy to tell you more about that in another case, but my diagrams are humongous. So I actually need a tool that will allow me to zoom in, zoom out, and edit things easily. So I use MyDraw for automation.
MyDraw.
Yeah, not a very popular tool, but it works perfectly for me, and I'm used to it. It's honestly, when it comes to software tools, it's what you get comfortable with.
Of course.
Yeah. So other tools that I use is obviously a CRM or an automation tool. And my favorite at the moment is Go High Level because it has everything under one price point.
Okay.
That's what I love about it.
Presumably that sort of email flows. Does that integrate with LinkedIn or anything like that?
Yeah, it integrates with a lot, and it's developing so rapidly that almost every single day when I open it, there's something new. But unlike some other tools, I used to be a HubSpot expert in the past, worked a lot with HubSpot, but they broke down pricing so much that for some growing businesses at the moment, it's just not sustainable to use HubSpot. It's just too expensive.
It's very expensive, yeah.
It is very expensive. Yeah, Go High Level actually kills all that, and it's a wonderful tool to use. It's got everything that you need in there, including like membership options, the option to have courses on your website, like all in one
Okay.
place. Yeah, um, obviously, because who doesn't love a good Zap?
Yeah, so that's how you're getting your data from point A, which is maybe a download or a sign up, to
Mhm.
go high level, presumably.
Yeah, sometimes. And to be honest with you, I mostly use Zapier to get GPT to do stuff.
Oh
So
well.
whenever you want, so one of the things that I'd automate very often, for instance, for businesses is whenever you have customer service inquiries and you have a large volume of those, it often isn't sustainable to hire the number of people that you actually need to answer in a timely manner to all of these customer
Yeah,
service inquiries. But if you can get a ChatGPT to draft an answer and any of your customer representatives to actually review that before you send it over to customer, that makes that makes life easy. So we do a lot of that with Zapier, where we obviously train a chat, train ChatGPT, gets a question sent over to it, and it just pops over a draft response in your mailbox. You get to review it and then just send it over to the client.
and that's hooked up via Zapier's driving that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. And does
exactly.
it ping it into Slack or Teams or something like that?
You can, depends on the platforms that you use. You can pretty much tie Zapier with anything that you want these days.
That's awesome. I need to do
Yeah.
more with ChatGPT. I need to do so much
Yeah,
more
you
with
do need to do
ChatGPT.
more. The thing that we're working on right now is with my team, we're developing an automation sequence that we can just deploy directly into businesses, which basically allows you to grab content from your existing database, whether you're using like Google Drive or OneDrive or whatever it is, and it will search through all that and create social media posts for you, design the images, and pop them over into a scheduler. So you just go, yeah, I like that, yeah, I like that, yeah, I like that, post it.
Crazy. That doesn't exist.
It does exist. There are some solutions. So currently there is no one solution that does all of that.
Got you.
You kind of have to tie a few things together. And some people have already started, but I've not found anything so far that doesn't require a prompt to be done for every single post.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm trying to go promptless, basically.
Well, look, if you need someone to test that when it's in beta phase, do reach out and give me a shout. I'm well up for that. Well, look, Nina, I always think when it comes to people who are successful and have gotten far in marketing or any
Yeah.
role really, they've had to fail a number of times to get there, to learn from it and improve. So one of the things we like to ask our guests is give us a time where you failed that was either really funny, to put a smile on our listener's face, or just something that had a really big learning curve for you and you took a lot away from it.
You know, I have a ton of these. A
Don't
remarkably,
we all?
a remarkably sad number of failures, but I think
Hey,
that's,
don't be sad.
well, depends on how you look at it. Some of them have been financially sad, some of them have just been sad.
Yeah,
But that's honestly, that is how you learn.
yeah, absolutely.
What what I find to be the funniest case from like recent times was we were running a campaign that was quite successful. It was a Google Ads campaign. It was having roughly about like 87% of exposure share. So generally, it was getting the most number of views that it could get. It was running really well. The thing is, with marketing, you always want to improve stuff, right?
Hmm.
So we looked at the landing page one day with the team and we said, "Ooh, that's a little bit old school. We kind of need to change this. We need to make it better." So we sat down, we conceptualized, we designed, we went back and forth, edited the copy, edited the titles, edited absolutely everything, and made a really, really fancy modern landing page. We first launched it responsibly. We launched it as an A/B test against the current page that looked really, really boring. A week later, something was really off because the new, very fancy, very modern page was not performing. So we thought, ooh, something must be wrong with the A test, right? Something with the systems must be wrong. So let's just, you know what? Let's remove the old page and run the campaign with with just the new landing page, which is so amazing. We nearly killed the campaign. The conversion rate just dropped to the ground
This based on the new landing page, right?
based on a new landing page. Even though it was far better, it loaded better on mobile, graphics were more modern, it had the information in a better way. But the thing is, sometimes you think that you are ready for innovation, your clients may not be. So it's when you serve your audience something that they are not quite ready for and that looks a little bit too futuristic for them, they pull back.
So was this in a particular sector that wasn't ready for that, do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, that was in education. And I can tell you straight up, education sector is not ready for innovation, at least not visual one.
No, I get that 100%. Well, look, yeah, I mean, we do a lot of landing pages here. We a big part of our business is PPC, and typically they work, and small tweaks here and there can have massive impacts on conversion rates. But yeah, for sure, if the audience of the business you're trying to optimize for is not ready for it, they don't take well to certain things looking visually quite striking. They like to keep things very simple and readable and digestible, and it's going to have the opposite effect, I guess, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I suppose the foundational point from this, I guess, is, and we've had this a few times, is understanding who you're trying to market to. What do they want? What are their preferences? What's familiar to them? Because you don't want to go outside of their comfort zone, do you? I guess
exactly.
in that instance, that you did.
We did. And can I be frank with you?
Go for it.
A month later, we tried again. Because that wasn't a good enough lesson. We tried again and it flopped again. So we just left it.
Well, sometimes these things are so unbelievable. You think, no, it must have been a one-off. It's got to have been a
Yeah.
one-off. Let's give it again. But no.
No, it wasn't a one-off. Yeah, when the audience speaks, you quite frankly shut up and listen. I think some
Yeah.
marketers, myself included, may have become a little bit arrogant, thinking that we know what's best for our clients. But at the end of the day, the mass is always going to win.
Yeah. And what works in one industry or one campaign is not going to work in another. It very much depends on who it's aimed at, who it's being sent to.
Yeah, absolutely.
The older generation may not like something that's too many bells and whistles, keep it simple. But the younger generation might want the bells and whistles, the vibrancy, the colours, the things flying in the page, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you've just got to listen, as you say. Shut up and listen. I like that. That could be maybe that's the name of the podcast. Well, look, on to the main event. So, for anybody that doesn't know, and I keep saying this, maybe I shouldn't, but Room 301 it was born out of what's called a 301 redirect, which is an SEO term for redirecting a page to somewhere else on a new website or an existing website. It tells the search engine that it's located in a different place. Now, the idea behind the Room 301 podcast is that we are redirecting something that we don't like in marketing, something that really annoys us, a pet peeve of ours, into a room never to be seen again, hypothetically. If only. So, Nina, what are you putting in Room 301? What really annoys you about marketing?
Oh God, this is how we right. You published a post on LinkedIn, and I answered with 10 different things.
10 things.
I did tell you that one of my pride and joys is that I do not fall into Samuel Jackson modes. I
saw that, yeah.
Usually do. And when you published it, that was one of the days I did. There are a lot of things, but my key thing these days is that a lot of people think that marketing equals promotion. And I'll give you an example to that. That has happened to me, unfortunately, with more customers than I would care to admit. You sit down as a marketer with the business owners or the board of decision makers or whoever is responsible for that business, and you look into data and you see that the clients are pulling back because the service is either inadequate, it's old school, it needs a little bit of editing, or something else can make it better by just enhancing it ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And you bring that over to senior leadership of any sort, and they go, no, we don't want to change the product. The product is fine as it is. Let's just promote it a little bit more. Thinking that a marketer shouldn't get involved the product. But at the end of the day, I think the whole concept is forgotten, that marketing is about positioning a product. That effectively, this is marketing is positioning a product in front of the audience. This is what the word means. But when you have to do that process, you also have to take into account what the audience is. And if the product doesn't fit the audience, well, there is one obvious solution to fix it.
Mm.
So that is one of my key things. I would like to put aside the idea that marketing is promotion and actually get marketers ever so slightly, least, involved with the actual product.
No,
Or
I
the
totally agree. I totally agree. Even from the very beginning,
Mm.
brainstorming ideas, so on and so forth. It's very, very important that the product has a position in the market. It has a plan around it. You can't just because the campaign's worked before doesn't mean it's going to work again. You can't just make a product and apply the same campaign strategy you did for another product on top of that and it'll work. It just doesn't work like that. It needs its own positioning, etc., etc. What's the price point? Why is the price point like that? You only got so much space in your ad copy or campaign to put that out to the world. It needs to be very simple and very clear as to how that pricing strategy got there, just as one example.
Yep. Another thing that I would like to put in that room is just entrepreneurs that go, "Oh, we need big picture thinking." If I hear
Corporate
one more,
lingo.
absolutely. If I hear one more big picture thinking, I'll probably bang my head against the wall. This is quite dangerous, to be honest with you, because big picture thinking at the end of the day means that you have a zero understanding of the small detail that needs to get done in order for your marketing campaign to be successful. So you want big picture thinking, you want something to go viral, but what is the process behind that?
No,
One of my
100%. What do you
favorite,
think? What do you think big picture thinking actually means? I think sometimes it's said without any substance to it.
well, what it should mean is is the understanding of the place that a specific product or service takes within the market right now and in the future. So a big picture thinking would include somebody who actually has some understanding of sociology and mass psychology, which we can all agree doesn't happen.
No, I totally agree. I mean, there's lots of corporate lingo that we won't go into today that I find really funny.
Yeah,
Like
we need
the
like
word
marketing.
circling back.
Yeah, marketing these days needs far more Indians and far less chiefs.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, there is there are a lot of people out there that go, "Oh, I'm very good at seeing the big picture." Are you?
Hmm. Hmm.
Are you? How many people are really good at seeing the big picture? And how can you have gone into marketing 2 years ago and all of a sudden you're very good at seeing the big picture?
Yeah, totally
But
agree.
then there are, at least where I operate, I see a lot of meetings where ideation is done and then there's no one to execute it.
Yeah,
So
that's the
isn't
hard
that
bit, though, right?
hmm?
That's the hard bit, though, right?
Yeah. That's why
The execution.
you need more Indians, less chiefs, because you need a little bit less ideation, and actually more work being done.
100%. 100%. Well, look, they're both firmly in room 301. And Nina, look, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for jumping on and replying to my LinkedIn
My
post,
pleasure.
which was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Look, if anyone wants to know more about you, where can they find out more?
Oh, well, the my agency's website is successfulsetup.com, and that's a lot of S's and a lot of C's, but I'm sure people can find it. But a simple Google search, because Google will correct you even when you type it wrong. And
There we
I will
go.
be changing the name.
Oh, it's changing.
I will be changing the name to something that people can actually spell easily. Yeah. I see that's the one marketing mistake I made.
Uh, that could be the funny failures. Well, look, feel free to reach out to Nina on LinkedIn as well. Any automation questions? Nina's your person for that. Nina, thank
Absolutely.
you very much for jumping on today. Very much grateful for your time, and we'll see you all again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Rob.